I think there's also like a misconception that, you suddenly hear about Web3 and you leave your job and then come work here. That's not what happened to me. And I don't think that's like the status quo as well. So what happened with me is when I started to like find the technology interesting, I actually started my own blog because there was like not good educational material out there. It was 1.5 years ago. Now there's like a lot more.
Get ready. Get ready. You are about to join the crypto revolution. The crypto revolution. This is the Crypto Mastery Podcast with Kevin Jones, where we talk about the future of money and elevate your knowledge in the space.
What's up, everyone? This is Kevin Jones, builder and educator in crypto, and this is the Crypto Mastery Podcast. The podcast is brought to you by SpeedRunEthereum. Test your skills and learn how to build decentralized applications on Ethereum at SpeedRunEthereum.com. Today, I will be speaking with Etta. Etta is a developer advocate in Web3. She's a member of the BuildGuidl, working on tools and content for the Ethereum ecosystem. She's very passionate about creating educational content and onboarding more people into Web3 ecosystem. She was previously a software engineer and working in technical sales before moving into full-time into Web3 1 year ago. All right, let's get into this. Etta, welcome to the podcast. It's so great to have you here. Thank you for coming on today.
Hey, thank you so much, Kevin, for having me. Excited to be here.
So how have you been? How was your new year? What have you been up to?
Yeah, it was good. I don't know when the podcast will air, but today is like 1 week into New Year. It's January 9th. But it's been nice, a year of it's been a crazy year in the Ethereum ecosystem, which I think we'll get to. But I'm really enjoying starting New Year with like new projects and a lot in the making right now.
And for viewers that don't know much about you, Etta, like, where were you based at, and like, where did you grow up, and tell people about you. What who is Etta, and what does she do?
Yeah, for sure. Let me give like a quick intro. So I live in Turkey. I'm from Turkey as well. I live in Istanbul. I was previously a software engineer. I studied computer science, became a software engineer. I wasn't really interested in computers before. I think it was just, after the university exam, you kind of pick a different major. Computer science was a hot topic, so I was like, okay, I'll choose computer science. So that was like kind of my segue into programming. So then over there, I actually didn't really love it at first. That's why I said, okay, maybe I should do I did a double major with economics because I thought maybe I didn't want to leave that I started computer science, but I also wanted to have something that I can go to in case I don't love it. But then during my internships, I came to really enjoy software engineering. I think in university it was more like academic level, more like, you had tests, but you did them with like pen and paper where you had to write code there. And I wasn't really that wasn't my favorite part of it. So there was a lot of like complex maths and physics into it. But then when I actually started my internship, I realized, it's really cool. Like you can build applications. It's very hands-on. So that's when I said, okay, I actually want to continue this route. So I started out as a software engineer, but soon after I moved to technical sales, and I'd recently been doing that before moving full-time to Web3, which was exactly a year ago. Well, I started in Web3 1.5 years ago, but it took me 6 months to actually transition. But yeah, then I was in technical sales, working more on the networking side, then personally discovered Web3. It's okay, what is this thing? Got into Ethereum, and then it kind of took me from there, and now I'm full-time here.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that you have a background in economics, because I feel like having that kind of knowledge about economics actually kind of helps a little bit in the crypto industry, because it makes you kind of understand money, and a lot of what crypto revolves around is the digital economy, right? So that's interesting. Yeah, and it also with school, I think it's one of those things where when you're going through school, it's a lot of kind of redundant, taking tests, like you said, writing code on paper doesn't really make any sense. But when you actually get into practicing something, right, is when you really start to kind of get a passion in it. So it's cool that you made that transition. And you grew up in Turkey, right?
Yeah, so I I lived in Dubai when we were younger, and then we moved back to Istanbul. I was born here, but we had like a couple of years in Dubai as well. And then I'd been here for a long time. I did when I started my technical sales career, I did move to Amsterdam for a year as well. And then I ended up moving back to Turkey after COVID happened. It was 2019 when I moved, and then 2020 I moved back home. So yeah, I had like a few abroad experiences, but now I'm back in Turkey.
Yeah, that's cool that you got to travel a little bit. And yeah, Amsterdam's a lot of fun. So that must have been a fun year living there. What was
It's
that
nice.
like?
It's pretty cold. I'm not gonna lie. I like the
Oh,
warmer weathers. It's a great place to live. Yeah, I think it's very nice if you love outdoors. Like you get to bike everywhere. There's so lovely parks. You can do like outdoor sports, just running, biking or any kind of sports basically outdoors. So I love that about it. The summer is lovely. The winters are really, really cold. But I had like a really nice year abroad. It's full of expats, like so many expats going there to um, yeah, to live and work. Also, language is not really a barrier there, so I didn't know a lot of Dutch. It's pretty similar to English. Well, not a lot. I didn't really get to learning Dutch as well. Unfortunately, I'm really bad at languages. But I had like a really nice year abroad, but then eventually decided back to move here as well.
got you. Spoken languages. Other languages, you're a rock star though. So like solidity.
Yeah. Programming, if programming languages count, then that's not a correct statement.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so you kind of touched on it briefly, but like let's talk a little bit more about like your journey into like Web3 and like crypto, and you know, first of all, like how did you make that transition? Because I know for a lot of listeners here, they either may already work in technology, maybe in like a traditional Web2 setting, maybe they don't work in Web3 at all. How did you make the transition into Web3, and like what was some of your like motivating factors to kind of make that move?
Yeah. So I guess like I come from a very traditional corporate background. I even like all my internships, all my previous educations were in like all the corporate Fortune 500 companies. Uh, I think there was just like, those were the internships or the jobs which I saw the most. You would get emails when you're studying, this company is hiring. It's like, okay, like good company, you can apply. You just see them a lot, and it's a really good path. You have like a safe, well, relatively safer, I guess, segue into like a lot of different jobs. So I kind of started there, and before like my latest company, um, I was there for like 2.5 years as well. I was working at Cisco in technical sales, and I think sales is like it was really for me. I never thought I'd end up in sales when I started university. I was like, no, like I don't really like sales. I like the tech parts. But I think technical sales really combines like both your technical skills and also like some communication, I guess, like more working with different people. You get to meet a lot of interesting people and mostly talk about technical stuff. I think there's also like a misunderstanding that it's actually not technical when, you actually do go and design like all those networks. Um, so it is pretty complex and technical, and I did really like it. But it was a time when I was back in Istanbul and we had a lot of lockdowns here. So I was ending up spending a lot of time at home. There was like curfew after a certain hour, you couldn't go out, everything was closed. So I suddenly had a lot of spare time, like most of us. And that's when I said, okay, crypto prices were going up. And crypto was like a lot more accessible here in Turkey as well. Like you would see, uh, you know, those crypto exchange commercials on TV, which I hadn't before. Like when I was in university, it was not something I saw a lot or heard a lot. So I never really like looked into, okay, what is this Bitcoin? Maybe I should buy something. There were like some friends which did that, good decisions. But I just was never interested in that. But then it was just super accessible. I had like super a lot of time. All the prices were going up. I was just hearing like all these amazing stories. People were making a lot of money. I'm like, okay, like maybe I should just invest a bit. So that's actually kind of how I started. I was like, okay, I made up like my own centralized exchange account. I actually like sent some money from my bank and then bought some crypto, but I didn't really have a deep understanding. I was like, okay, I heard Bitcoin, I heard Ethereum, maybe just like buy these. And then that ended up being like a really bad decision because it was the worst possible time to buy any kind of crypto. And yeah, then the prices started going down, and I'm like, okay, now I know what this crypto stuff is, and I'm hearing about this NFT stuff. Maybe I should just try NFTs. This crypto coins didn't work for me, but NFTs might. Um, and then that also didn't work for me. But when I was actually trying to like buy NFTs, I kind of learned about all these tools. I had to create my own wallet. I had to like send from my exchange to over there, learn about all these platforms where you buy the crypto. So it was kind of like a learning experience, I guess, like even though it wasn't like a good decision. I got to learn about all these tools. And then that didn't work out as well. But I was pretty curious at that point, and being like a technical person, I was like, okay, like how does this thing actually work? Like, where am I actually sending this money? How does this like wallet thing actually work? What is the background? So that's kind of when I started to actually be interested and start to like look behind, just the crypto coins and the NFTs, but understand the technology.
You sound very determined in your path. That's what I'll say for sure. You had a couple stints where you were just kind of an investor, and then you worked your way through that stuff. You even tried different avenues. So I really like that about you, Ada. You're just getting it done and getting to the end. So I can really appreciate that. We have similar backgrounds actually. Because I was working in technical sales for a long time, still kind of am in some ways. I'm still working at a traditional Web2 company, so I'm excited that you've kind of made that full leap in Web3. I do a lot of stuff in the Web3 community, but yeah, I'm really, really, really cool to see your story and how you got to where you are. So let's talk a little bit about well, first of all, hackathons. How have hackathons been like an interesting part of your journey? And for anyone listening, like, what is a hackathon, and like, why would they go to a hackathon?
Yeah, for sure. Maybe I can just fill in the gap as well. Like, I think there's also like a misconception that, you suddenly hear about Web3 and you leave your job and then come work here. That's not what happened to me. And I don't think that's like the status quo as well. So what happened with me is when I started to like find the technology interesting, I actually started my own blog because there was like not good educational material out there. It was 1.5 years ago. Now there's like a lot more. But at that time, I was like, okay, like I'm trying to learn about this, but there's nothing I can go and look on how it works. So that's when I started my own blog, and I did that for 6 months with my job as well. It was just my hobby, something I was doing on the weekend. And then once it was like, I'm just way too committed to my own crypto blog, and I'm also like getting nice offers to like join different companies. That's when I actually made the switch as well. So yeah, I just feel like, it's always like, um, you leave, you get a job, but I don't think that's always the case. It took me like 6 months to actually like say, I actually like this thing and I actually want to continue here. So I just tried to iterate this message as well. And to your question about hackathons. So my first hackathon was ETH New York, and that's actually where we met in real life as well. With also like BuildGuidl, Austin, and Carlos as well. Like together, we work a lot right now. But hackathons for me was honestly, it was one of the most fun times of the year, hands down. It's just so everyone talks about like the energy of hackathons, and I really do believe like when you go there you see so many people like just interested in building something over a weekend, which is just super cool. You see so many people looking to help as well. Like, we went there, we didn't have an idea. We were like, okay, this is our first hackathon, we have no idea what to build, we know no one, but we're going to just build something over the weekend. And you just meet a lot of people, you make a lot of friends, you get a lot of ideas. Like that's where we got our first project idea as well. I know that some people do go to hackathons with like an idea in their head, but for us, it was like our first, we had no idea how hackathons work at all, but we just went there, and there was so many like different crypto companies which had like different ideas. They were just, why don't you guys go build this? You can build this, you can build that. So you get a lot of ideas. It was like, I think we spent like 12 to 15 hours like actively building and trying to learn something. And it didn't actually feel a lot of work. Like it was just really fun being there with everybody trying to do that. So, I always highly recommend like going to hackathons or meetups, right? Like maybe hackathon is not like, it's not close to your hometown, or, it's just like far or costly or something. But I think like if you can, then you should definitely go to a hackathon. You don't need a partner. You don't need to know a lot. Like it's just a very learning avenue.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the hackathons too have online ones as well, which is
Yeah.
actually for me, like that was, during the pandemic, I was same kind of situation, we were kind of trapped at home and I kind of wanted to learn more. And I picked up a few hobbies, right, during the pandemic. And one of those was like building on Ethereum. And I started going to like some of the ETH global hackathons. And even just the online experience was really nice too. So, yeah, meetups are great, and yeah, the hackathons, if you can actually make it to one, I think are huge. Yeah. So okay. So let's talk a little bit about the BuidlGuidl or the Build Guild. Okay. So we're both in the BuidlGuidl. For people that aren't listening, or people that are listening but don't know, what is the BuidlGuidl or the Build Guild, and how did you come? How did you become part of that? And what is it? What is it all about?
Yeah, BuildGuild. I call it BuildGuild. In fact, there was one time where someone called it uh, BuildGuild. I can't even say it like my, it's just even not
yeah.
possible. And I was like laughing because I was like not the way I say it. But there are different ways to call it. I call it BuildGuild. So my first encounter with BuildGuild was I met Austin before. I was already following Austin on Twitter. He's like a huge Twitter celebrity. So one day I remember like I make written content. So I don't do like video content at that point. Now I guess there's a bit more videos where I do some of those. But then I wasn't doing any video content. I was just doing written content. And I was kind of interested in like transforming some of those into like more YouTube videos or just kind of interested in the idea. So I had put out a tweet. I'm like, okay, like I'm thinking about video, like send tips. This is like really scary for me. I think it's really scary, like to be in front of a camera and talk. You need to like re-record a lot. I guess I feel better right now, but like it's still like not like written content for me. And then I put out that tweet, and then Austin reached out. Austin sent me a DM, and then he told me like, hey, like you need to do this, or I think he told me that you need like a good thumbnail, like that's a trick to a good video. And then that's when we kind of started talking. And then he said, like, hey, if you want to do like a Scaffold-ETH session together, we can do that. So that's when we made like our first Scaffold-ETH session. And that's the first time we met as well, actually. It was like March, I believe it was March, like maybe beginning of April, like March, April. And that's when we like made a Scaffold-ETH video. He helped me spin up everything. We did like some kind of application with like a weird price curve. And we really got along with Austin. Like, I think that was like a really fun video. I really liked his energy. It was like a really good teaching, like, really good learning experience for me. And so then Austin told me about, hey, like, why don't you like join BuildGuild and like build other stuff yourself as well? And that's kind of how I first joined BuildGuild. And to your question, like, what is BuildGuild? It's basically like, and please do correct me if like there's something to add as well. I like to describe BuildGuild as a Web3 developer community where people can build and earn, build, learn, and earn at the same time. So you build different tools and content or products with Scaffold-ETH, where you can learn about different technologies, right? Like you don't need to be an expert at all. You don't even need to be intermediate. You just need to complete like some SpeedRunEthereum challenges, then you get in, and you can easily like go and learn Solidity while building, something with Scaffold-ETH. And then people can show off their products, what they're building, and then they can also earn some money for doing this as well. So it's basically like a very free, open Web3 developer community. People come, and then the only thing I guess important is to also show off what you're doing. I feel like most developers also like to build in the dark, which is okay, but you kind of need to show it off to kind of make people talk about it or make people use the product, right? Like you can easily get feedback once you share what you're building. So we do like meet on Fridays. It's called like a Bowtie Friday call. So where people can come, show off their product, get direct feedback from developers or just send links and their GitHub repo, which I think again is really powerful. So yeah, that's kind of like a developer community for people to learn, earn, and build at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect, that's kind of exactly how I would describe it as well. There's a couple of little keywords in there that we probably can dive a little deeper into. So one of those is Scaffold-ETH. So a lot of people probably in the kind of Web3 ecosystem or specifically around Ethereum community probably know about Scaffold-ETH. But maybe you can give like a few words about what Scaffold-ETH is and kind of why it's, I guess it's so popular in the community.
Yeah, for sure. So Scaffold-ETH is basically like a tool set to build decentralized applications. So it's not a product itself, it's like a combination of different tools which allow you to quickly build like a starter application, which then you can add different pieces to. So what I mean by this is it has React, it has like your smart contract, it uses hard hats, it has like wallets, both like integration with wallet providers, but also its own wallet, which is like basically a burner wallet. So it kind of gives you all this tool set so that you can just focus on building your smart contract and you can see direct feedback on your web page. So you can like make changes to your smart contract and your front end will auto adapt. So you can directly like without, well, always write tests, but without writing your tests, you can directly like see the effects, like go and test it out yourself. So,
Yeah.
um,
Sorry, go ahead.
and
Yep.
maybe
Keep
like
going.
a keyword is, I just wanted to add like a keyword I think is like it's a hackathon starter kit, especially like after going to hackathons as well. You just have so limited time to build like something that actually works. So you don't want to like take ages like trying like making a wallet integration, trying it out, like then, spinning all your different hard hat accounts and all that stuff. You just want something that works so you can focus on building your own smart contract and writing like a small application. So that's actually like one thing which is very powerful, like to call it like a hackathon starter kit as well.
Yeah. So developers that are trying to build on Ethereum and they want to get started quickly and they don't want to have to go through the hassle of kind of like, setting up everything manually and connecting the wallets and creating the modal and they can use something like Scaffold-ETH and it kind of just will get them up and running quickly. And then that Scaffold-ETH kind of knowledge that they get gives them access to kind of using Scaffold-ETH as a catalyst for like all of their projects they're going to build, or even enhancing Scaffold-ETH, right? Like creating maybe a special build. And one of the pathways, from what I understand, is SpeedRunEthereum, right? And SpeedRunEthereum is kind of like, how would you describe it? Like a learning platform and kind of like I don't know, a challenges platform? Or how would you describe SpeedRunEthereum to people listening in?
Yeah, I think that's a good description. Like I generally call it like a set of challenges to learn about what you can use Ethereum for and how you can build these different tools. So it's kind of like more advanced challenges, I guess, than like a starter Hello World smart contract. I feel like so many people start with the Hello World, but you kind of do need to go a step further. With Speedrun Ethereum, you get to learn about what you can use Ethereum for. Like building your own decentralized exchange, your own multi-sig wallets, so they're like more complex challenge, which you can just follow the steps. Like I think they sound more complex when you don't know what they mean, but then when you actually get building to, it's like more smaller tasks. So no worries. But basically, it's like a set of challenges which teaches you about Ethereum and building on Ethereum.
Gotcha. Okay, so any developers that are listening in that want to get learning about Ethereum and how to build on Ethereum, they can get Scaffold-ETH. They can go to speedrunethereum.com and they can go through some challenges. And I believe it's after the fourth challenge, they actually get invited to the BuildGuidl, right? So that's kind of like the journey that you make into the BuildGuidl. And then from that point, you can start creating custom builds of Scaffold-ETH that maybe showcase a functionality. You can write work pieces. You can create YouTube videos, whatever it is that you want to do for the community to kind of prop that up and bring it up, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It should be the fourth challenge as far as I remember as well. But once you complete the four challenges, you can either continue the challenges, which I think most people should as well. They're just like fun and nice challenges to continue. But you can also continue to build like your own tools. Like you may say, this multi-sig is cool, but I'm going to build like my own multi-sig, which uses something else. Or you can say like this SVG NFT is cool, but I'm going to add like a different weird time-based price curve, which was actually one of the challenges we did, like not challenges, but like one of the builds we did as well. So you can definitely extend what's over there. But I think the four challenges are like a nice entry into building your own tools. It's not like, it's just like, it's not like gated. It's not like, you need to I feel like we want developers who like build tools, right? We see a lot of people who like kind of write contracts, but just starting to write contracts. I feel like Scaffold-ETH or SpeedRunEthereum kind of take it to the next level where you kind of move beyond, your traditional like simple smart contract, but you actually start to build, and you also gain the confidence when you do those like builds as well. So yeah, like once you complete the fourth challenge, you should continue, but also build like your own stuff.
Cool. So one thing I want to cover, and I think it's really, really interesting, is for for a lot of developers, they're Web2 developers trying to move into Web3. Now you created a series of videos with Austin and Carlos that kind of go through the paths of like things you need to learn. So can you talk a little bit about that kind of video series that you created?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, we created, I think, over 15 hours of video material together with Austin and Carlos called Web2 to Web3 curriculum. And basically, the idea is to show how a developer can learn about Web3 coming like with a developer background as well. And what we did over there is we made it like a 4 week program. The first week is becoming an Ethereum power user. So this is, learning about what Uniswap is, learning about what NFTs are, OpenSea is, kind of going and trying those platforms yourself. And that's actually what we did, right? Like in the first videos, we actually like installed MetaMask, set up our own wallets. So it's just like very starter level. So you don't need to know anything about crypto. You don't need to have a crypto wallet to get started. And then the second week is more Ethereum scripting. So that's where Carlos teaches us a lot about Ethers.js, like how to talk to the Ethereum blockchain and, just basic scripting and kind of talking, getting information, writing some basic stuff. And then the third week is getting into building. And then the fourth week, I believe, is the SpeedRunEthereum challenges, where we kind of just give an intro challenge and, kind of expect that the person starts to go through those challenges. But
This is really great. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, you
I,
finish.
I I think it's like I think there are like lots of nice resources right now as well. And for anyone who's like especially starting out, I think they're like a great place to go and just follow the videos which you want to and the ones which are like relevant to you. Especially I run into so many people who are interested in crypto but haven't really started. And I always recommend, like first, I think it's important to become a crypto user because then you can actually understand how the tools work. Like sometimes people dive into smart contract development, but then you're like, when a person directly dives into smart contract wallet development but hasn't used a wallet, I think that kind of creates like a problematic process for how the product's going to be, how it's going to interact, and overall, you just need to become a user as well.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true, right? You need to kind of step back and actually like, especially if you're going to be building stuff, right? Like from
Yeah.
a perspective of like building a solution, right? Like to actually be a user and understand that process and some of the pain points. And when you're building something, you need to know like, hey, this is going to be a good solution, right? And so going through that process is really good. And I'm going to make sure for anyone listening that we'll leave that in the comments for the show notes. And I'm also going to leave in the comments your Ethereum Developers Resources Guide, which you made. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, which has a huge collection of resources as well.
Yeah, so that's basically like a GitHub repo, which has like lists and links to all my favorite Ethereum resources. I spend a lot of time on the education side. I just go through like a lot of educational material. A lot of people do ask me about those materials as well. So I try to make a curated list of, my favorite resources to get started. And then it was just kind of, a few things on there. And then I actually got like extra PRs of people adding extra resources as well. So if there's anything anyone wants to add as well, please do make a PR. But I think it's a nice place to just find a list of, there's like Alchemy University, 30 Days of Web3, SpeedRunEthereum is on there. You'll find like my favorite people I follow and their articles as well. So I think it's like a nice place to, learn about who's in the ecosystem and where you can learn more stuff.
Yeah, well, Etta, you've really done a great job of creating some amazing content, and I think anyone that's listening to this podcast, make sure you go to the show notes. Make sure you follow Etta because Etta does a lot of stuff for the community, and you can really learn a lot from Etta. So, thank you for all you do. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about ETH Istanbul. I know that you're probably really excited about this. I know when I heard this, I was like, internally, I was like, oh, I'm so happy for Etta, because I know how much she wanted to see ETH Istanbul happen. What can people accept? Well, first of all, what is ETH Istanbul, and what can people expect, do you think?
Yeah, so it's actually so ETH Global is organizes, I believe, 6 hackathons per year, and this year one of them is going to be in Istanbul. It should be in May, end of May, and it's a hackathon. So it's like a 2 day, 3 day event where builders can apply. You can build different, you can come to Istanbul. You can like build different products. You can just be part of the hackathon as well. And I'm, of course, very excited. I think that's like a really good step for the ecosystem here in Turkey as well. I've been working a lot here as well for the past few months, trying to like get more content, get more builders, go to workshops, attend events, etc. So I'm really excited to see like a wider Turkish community and developer community coming there. But I also think it's like a nice experience when you're coming from abroad because I feel like Istanbul has a lot to offer. Not to be biased or anything, but I do think it's like one of the best cities to visit as a tourist. But yeah, I'm very excited for it.
Nice. So do you live in Istanbul, or do you live kind of nearby?
I live in Istanbul.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. So I've been to Turkey, but I've only been to like kind of the resort area that's up to the kind of the west side. I forget what it's called. Um,
Antalya,
uh,
maybe?
Side? Side?
Yes, yes.
Yes. It was great. Beautiful. And I miss it. We had a great time. We stayed at like a nice resort, and then we went down to Side, and it's just amazing, like the old history there. These like old ruins, and then there's like a coffee shop right on top of them, which is really cool. Okay, that's great. So what can people expect from Turkey? For people that haven't visited Turkey, because I've been there and it's an amazing country. What can people expect, and do you have any tips for travelers?
Yeah. So basically, I think Istanbul is the most touristic city too. So like it's good that it's in Istanbul. Like those resort areas like Antalya or maybe Cappadocia, like people heard about the hot air balloons. They're super nice. But I think yeah, my favorite city is Istanbul. I'm from here. I live here too. But it's like it's located in between Asia and Europe, and you will see like, you will go to both sides. It's not like very wow to me when I cross sides, but especially like people when they visit for the first time, it's like, oh, I'm in Asia, now I'm in Europe kind of situation. And then you have like really nice views. The weather's going to be very nice at that time. It's, end of spring, not like maybe a bit warm, but the weather is going to be really nice. You have a lot of places where you can go for touristing. Like it's very, I think it's, you both have like very traditional architectures, and then you have kind of like more European feeling as well. It's kind of like Middle East slash European, kind of like a cultural collaboration, I feel like. So yeah, like I think the views are really nice, the weather, the food, people will love the food, I'm sure. A lot of meat heavy food, a lot of food and sweets, shoppings. Like, I just think it's like, 3, 4 days of very unique cultural experiences.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, I'm gonna try to go. So I'm gonna lean on you for where we're gonna go to dinner when we go. I expect the best Turkish delight in all of Istanbul.
Yeah.
No, it
A
should
lot
be
of sweets,
great.
as I said.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's great. So I'm excited for that. I'm sure everyone else is really excited about that, especially people in the Ethereum community. I was really rooting for that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's dive a little bit into like crypto and like kind of where the industry's going. I'm kind of curious, like for people that are getting started in like Web3 and this concept of like decentralization and blockchain based applications. Where do you think that the most chance that Ethereum and Web3 has a chance of disrupting in terms of like technology? Where do you think it has its most imprint, right, that it can make on technology?
Yeah. So I always like, one of my favorite articles was uh, Atoms is Atoms, Blockchains and Institutions, I believe. So I can also provide that, and maybe we could add that to the show notes. So I think it was by Josh Stark, who works at the Ethereum Foundation. But basically, it describes, what you can do with Ethereum, right? Like how you can actually make processes, kind of processes without having like an intermediary. Like you can have institutions, like you can have blockchains do the job of institutions, basically like making an agreement between two people without, needing any intermediary. So I love that article. I think that's like really nice article to give like a perspective of where the industry can go. I can't really like name specific sectors. I'm more on the education side. That's like my main focus. I love working on this side, but I can't say, like I don't do like research on okay, which is going to be disrupted first. I do think it's like a major part. That's why I do work in this industry. And I think like a lot of things can be way smoother. Like even just when you look at financial transactions, like sending money abroad, how it kind of makes a lot of things easier. Of course, there are like some maybe issues with regulations and, the crypto scams coming up, but it just makes like a lot of processes way easier. I don't think it's ready yet. I think there's a lot of stuff which need to be done in terms of both technology, right? Like it's very expensive and it's not fast. When you look at overall, like people do talk like it's faster, but it's still not as fast as any other alternative. So there is like a lot of room for improvement, but I'm pretty optimistic of where the industry is going. I think, once there's more clear regulation and once the technology is better, we will see way more use cases. And yeah, for my case, I do feel like it will make a lot of the jobs of, institutions, maybe not replace an institution completely, but you could have processes which use this in the back end just to make it more transparent. So you can make it both transparent and reliable, right? Like you can make transactions like that. So yeah, I wouldn't give like specific sectors. Financial is like maybe on the top list just because like it's the most when you look at DeFi, it's the most like I guess community that's wider and being used right now. So, but besides that, I can't really name any institute or sectors or institutions, etc. But I do really like that article. I think that like touched upon like some really nice points.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on the concept of like agreements, right? And like the smart contracts and the concept of smart contracts can really solve a lot of those problems with like having to have some kind of third party intermediary. So I think it helps, like you said, from finance perspective, it helps peer-to-peer economy, right? It helps peer-to-peer agreements. Yeah, there's a lot of definitely room to be had in terms of like being able to scale Web3 and scale Ethereum. But I think, like you said, if we can get some adoption and we can get some regulation, we'll see the industry continue to grow right over the coming years. And I love that you approach things as a builder and educator perspective, right? Like we're in a bear market. The price of Ethereum and the price of Bitcoin is pretty low right now. But regardless of that, Etta, you're like optimistic and you're like continuing to try to grow, right, the ecosystem and help builders and help educate people. And I really love that about you. So I was going to ask you a price prediction, but you know what? I don't think we need to even worry about that. Let's just keep building, right?
I know I'm not a financial advisor. Don't take my advice. Like if I give advice, do the opposite. This is not financial advice as well.
I know. I think I need to start saying that because every podcast I listen to, oh, this is not financial advice, which I agree. It is not financial advice. We're just builders. We're just educators. We're just trying to grow the ecosystem. Okay, that's great. So is there anything else in like crypto that you're really excited about in 2023 or anything in general for 2023 that you're excited about?
Yeah, so this year I am focusing a lot on Turkey as well. So I started 1.5 years ago when there wasn't a lot of educational resources. So I did like everything in English, and I will continue to do that. But then when I started to going to a lot of events here in Turkey and activities and meeting people, a lot of people were like, "Oh, like we didn't know you were based in Turkey or doing workshops or stuff like that." And especially with ETH Istanbul coming up, I'm really focused on like getting more developer community, getting more content, building a team, and like going and doing different workshops. So I guess like that's the thing I'm most excited about this year. We're doing a lot of things at BuildGuidl, which is always exciting. And we started like a recent video series called BG Labs, again with Austin, Carlos, and I, where we ran through like a different concept. We did like burner wallets, solidity tinkering, and it's like short videos where folks can learn about different concepts, and we actually go ahead and try them out. which is again something really fun. But yeah, I guess like ever since I got into Web3, I felt like it was just told. Yeah, I felt like it had like a high barrier to entry. So that was always my problem when I was saying, this is actually not this hard. It's just like giving me a perception that it's hard. So every time I try to start like a new project, that's kind of my main goal, to show that it's actually not as complex and weird as it looks. But once you get to building, it's just really fun. You can do a lot. You have a lot of opportunities. So that's really what I'm working on and have been working on for a long time now. And yeah, I guess the most recent thing is going to be ETH Denver as well. So I guess like that's going to be the next thing on my list.
Oh, cool. You're going to ETH Denver. That's awesome. Unfortunately, I won't be there. Super sad because, well, as some of you guys know, my wife's pregnant and my son is due any day now. So I
Wow,
won't
I
make
didn't
it,
know that.
sadly.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah. I really wanted to go to ETH Denver, but my son being born is kind of more important. So,
Yeah,
um,
priorities.
but you'll have to tell me all about it, and you'll have to say hi to everyone. I'm sure you'll see a lot of friendly faces there. So anyone listening that's going to Denver, find Etta, say hello. That'll be a good time. And okay, so that's great. So I always like to ask, for people that you've kind of given a lot of really good tips and a lot of good kind of action items for people. But what would be your like number one tip or advice that you would give for someone who wants to work in crypto? You're a developer relations or developer advocate. What would you say to people that want to do something like that, or maybe something similar in crypto?
Yeah, I think the difference between crypto and like when I look at my past experience is in crypto, you kind of need to go ahead and do it, right? Like you don't need to wait for someone to actually ask you. Like you see, like you're working with a different protocol and they have like something wrong in their docs, right? Like you can just go ahead and make a PR to their docs and actually like be like, hey, this is wrong. So like I'm changing this. I feel like you kind of need to be more hands-on than you were before, especially in the corporate world. You're more like there's a certain path, like how this is going to end. 2 years this position, 3 years this position, you do this. It's like a more clear path. I feel like in crypto it's not as clear, so people can sometimes, they're a bit more afraid to get into it, which I totally understand because it took me like 6 months to actually transition as well. But you kind of make your own path and you need to be more hands-on. So that's, I guess, like one of my biggest advices is, if you see something missing, just go ahead and do it yourself. If you want to, don't wait for someone to tell you to do it, right? Like it's a small industry, there's lots of opportunities, but you actually need to go and do something.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I kind of agree, right? Like, if you want to learn something, you got to get your hands dirty, right? You got to get in there and do something with the product, right? Or with the technology. So the more you do that, I think with like crypto and Web3, the more you fall down the rabbit hole and kind of get more comfortable with that kind of the technology. So yeah, that's really good advice. So what are your hobbies? Do you have anything that you like to do outside of Web3 or outside of Ethereum? Because all I see you doing is Ethereum stuff or Web3
Is
stuff.
there any time to do anything else when you're
Very true.
so
Very true.
um I love traveling and I kind of try to combine the both. So like when I go somewhere for a conference, I do try to like add a few weeks extra or like a few days, weeks extra and kind of go ahead and travel as well. So that's been really nice. I think it's like a nice combination of what I like to do for work and for fun. And yeah, like my blog, I just started out as a hobby. So that was something out of my work, but now it kind of became, I kind of turned my hobby into work, I guess. So it's kind of hard to be like, what else do you do? Um, but yeah, I think travel is one of the things I love doing most. And that's why I like to go to like some conferences because then I can do my job and then I can take some weeks off to go ahead and like just explore around.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like with the developer advocacy role, like it's a perfect kind of complement, right, to what you do, right? Because you
Yeah.
get to travel a little bit, you get to go to conferences, hackathons, you get to be on the ground, right, boots running, and so that's really cool. I'm the same way. I love traveling, and it's so cool that with the Ethereum community, there's events all over the world. You get to kind of go wherever. And what I also really love is that you have your blog, and that was kind of like a passion of yours, but it was a hobby, and you kind of turned that into something that you do for work that's fun, right? And I think there's a lot to be said about that, because if you're passionate about something, you love something, and you kind of follow that path, it really pays off the work you do, and the passion that you have for that kind of work, right?
Yeah, I think like because as you said, like it's very harsh hours and it's like always online. And yeah, like I think developer advocacy too, like you're constantly online, right? Like even when you post on the weekends on Twitter, it's kind of like it doesn't feel like work, but it's also, some can it could be like work as well, like sometimes. So I think it's important to like take some time off, and that's what I do. Like that's why I like to travel as well. Like I feel like I try to stay away from work because you also need to be creative, and I feel like when you work 24/7 for like a very long period of time, you also can't be creative, so it kind of works against you. So you sometimes do need to like take some time off, look from a different perspective, and then just get back to like whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Etta, thank you so much again for coming on the podcast today. It's really been a pleasure, like learning about you and what you're doing in the space. For people listening in, where can they follow you or learn more about what you're working on? Where would you send them to?
I post a lot on Twitter. So you can follow me on Twitter as Edda Tweets. I think I have it, yeah, down here on my name. But Edda Tweets underscore is where you can find me on Twitter. And yeah, I'm pretty active there.
Yeah, you do a lot of good content on Twitter. So anyone's following, make sure you follow Etta Tweets, because she's a rock star. We both have the similar underscore at the end of our Twitter name.
Yeah,
All
we lost the
right, Etta.
actual names.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Etta, and thank you for coming on. It's really been a pleasure, and I'm excited to see you this year at one of the events, and I'm excited to see everything you do for the community. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Catch you guys next time.